think that I more like sweets or regular or boxes or whatever.
I thought I remembered them something.
You get me one.
Fine, you don't ask.
She hands you one, not asked, that's actually an insult.
That's true.
Yeah, here you go. You'll need it.
Well, no,
No.
It's a good friend, that's not an insult.
Let's get a handful for you. There.
You up for success here.
Here's the first slide.
Yeah, is that okay?
Yeah, oh yeah, I just didn't know if you had a second, and I don't.
Thanks for that.
Do you know?
He's coming.
Way to?
Kosovo.
Legal.
Stuff going on. My whole.
If you told me you'd have to kill me. or what?
No, it's pretty chill. Pictures and. Absolutely.
We're gonna hear from you in a year.
Really? Yes.
You're not gonna let us forget about you.
Wait, if you do send us pictures, do we get billed for that? No. Okay.
I'm still like an employee.
Okay, all right, I'm just making sure.
We're sending messages. I'm getting ready to send my nephew a care package. He's on a ship that just got moved over to the,
The gold area, we're live. We're live. We are live. Yeah, okay.
Some time in the ship.
Excellent. I think we have everybody here, so we'll go ahead and call our urban rural agency
husband too.
order here. It's 7:23 at this point. So anyway, so we're here to talk about the our URA and specifically about one of our major projects in the URA, which is the pedestrian bridge and where we're at with costs and all that fun stuff. So we'll go, who's gonna kick this off? David? I'm gonna take.
I'm gonna kick it off. So I've been asked just to kind of give the overall financial picture of where the URA stands. In this next slide, you're gonna see where the URA stands, funds available versus two of the major projects that we have kind of in the works. As of 11/16, this has been updated as of last week. I know there's some information I put together as of 10/31, but I wanted to make sure I updated this information. You can see the URA has about 16.5 million. To be safe, I'd want to round that down a little bit because there's projects in the mix, whether it's the tannery. There's still some costs associated with Ice Age Drive that's going on. But when you go over to the right, those are some estimates that I received from, Public Works and engineering on the costs remaining. So you can see for the bridge, there's about a little over $29 million. That was kind of the average between the low and the high end that I received from Craig. Ice Age Drive, we estimate to be about 17.9 million. So for a total of about a little over $47 million in projects, minus the funds we have remaining, minus the $3 million in federal money that we're receiving for Ice Age Drive specifically. So overall, the funds needed are about $27.5 million. Yes.
And we have 4 million in lottery money for the bridge as well, or you already got that in?
That's included right there.
Okay.
So I kind
Yeah, you
of
call it, yeah.
I wanted to separate it out and say, okay, here's the pot of money we're working with. Depending on the discussion tonight. We know how much we need to obtain if we moved ahead with the bridge project and so forth. So, I'm open for questions on this, or if you want to.
What options do we have to fill that $27 million gap? If we want to do it all?
And along those lines, do you have a slide that shows what's in that 29 million? Because I think there's also like contingency dollars in there. It's as well, correct? For the
So
bridge.
you
the
have,
bridge.
you have a 10% contingency off the almost $24 million. So, and this does not include, if you guys decide to do value engineering of the project, it would not include KPFF's time to be able to do that engineer work for us, whatever that's decided tonight. Or
I'm
direction.
just saying, if we wanted to trust the numbers and the homework, and I know it's all there and whatnot, take these numbers at face value. If we wanted to do all this, how do we come up with $27 million?
That's the $1 million question.
It's $27.
It would be
What are our
You
options?
just want,
Do we have options?
We have options, you know, if we want to borrow $13 to $14 million from the water fund, those are restricted under Oregon budget law that we're allowed to borrow money from funds. This is a capital project. Oregon budget law says we have to pay it back within 10 years.
Okay.
We'd have to develop a repayment schedule, whether city council wants to charge interest, you know, because the water fund's losing out on interest and so forth. But that still leaves us short.
That's happening.
Yes.
What options do we have the other?
Potentially going out for a loan, but interest rates are high right now. It would be a bad time to go out on the market. We'd have to work maybe with Business Oregon to see if there's any funding out there. But then the one issue we have is the debt service payments. You know, right now, the URA is ahead of schedule when the consultants came out back in 2020. Basically, the property tax collections, according to their schedule, were between year 25 and 26. So we're ahead of schedule, but I needed that to be ahead of schedule. We have debt service payments. So I need that thing at least to perform at 1.1 to 1.2 million, just to cover our costs, because we have debt service payments, we have audit fees, we have staff time that are involved in managing all that. So we'd have to look at all the various options and to see if even the URA could handle it, a debt service payment, or would this be, we'd have to figure out how those payments would be covered, whether that be from city funds for a little bit. So it'd be a challenge, I would say.
So just to be clear, the funds needed is, we have 16 million.
Mhm.
So it's the net of those two numbers, right?
No, and it's part of it is also the timing of when Ice Age, when we do Ice Age, and if we do all of Ice Age at once and things
Yeah,
like
I
that.
think we're looking into that, but one thing that we could run into is usually when you get federal money of the $3 million, it's from point A to point B. So we need to get some answers on that from the state, if we can actually do that. Otherwise, I mean, that you'd lose your federal funding if that was the case.
There's an expectation to be used in some amount of time, probably.
Well, using amount of time, and it's how you applied for the application, point A to point B, kind of like Cedar Creek Trail.
Yeah.
So the rates then that's an important question, then the timing of when we are actually ready to build Ice Age.
Yeah, right now, so 90% of stage is in for review. With everything with the state, they're saying it could take 9 to 12 months to get an IGA. At the earliest that we could bid it, if everything goes properly with the state, and since they're running the funding part, it would be probably this time next year, going into early winter months of 24. So 100% design will be done. I mean, probably early spring, I would say. It's the other part of it that going through the new requirements that's part of the federal money.
The early for 25.
Yeah, so we'll be bidding an early bid package next month. To do the clearing for the Kinder Morgan line. So that'll be December, January, February. We have to have that done by March 1st because of the migratory birds. So that part will be bid. If everything comes together right, we'll get that done. But the actual bidding of the whole project wouldn't happen until, I would say, December to January next year. And that's if everything goes right with the state.
They're so fast with everything else they've done lately. So one potential scenario is if whenever we get comfortable with the bridge, if we get comfortable with moving forward with the bridge in whatever form, the rest of the resources needed to do Ice Age is a problem that we, in theory, could have a year to sort out.
You have a little time to sort it out yet.
You're gonna have to sort out.
I just to let you guys know, when David's talking about the water fund and borrowing, just one thing I want you to know is there's another plant expansion expected in roughly 2030. So we're gonna need to make sure we have money back in the fund to be able to, to spend on our portion of that. So just a reminder of that.
How many millions is that?
I don't have that number. I'm not sure what its portion would be at this time. I mean, we have a rough number in our master plan that I can get you guys. I just don't have it off the top of my head.
We would be, yeah, that's an important number to know, for sure.
And in terms of Ice Age Drive, it's important to know we have two pieces of property out there we purchased. We did that for the right of way. keep in mind that the value of that property comes when the road is done. So, we would estimate $4 to $5 million in today's market in terms of the value of that property, if we decided to use those funds. So we talk about how we fill that gap. There are things out there that we would,
When the road is done to that. property.
when the road is done to that property,
Yeah. it doesn't have
And
to-
then it's a major road, so there's road money.
You'll have road money coming in, you'll have SDCs coming in from the storm and sanitary that could actually be paid back into.
It's not, I mean, in my mind, Ice Age was never a 100% urban renewal project. It was a urban renewal contributed to the project. But you have all these other
Refunding
dollars,
it, and some of that amount will come back to us.
right?
Depending on what the development is out there. And I think when we gave you the presentation on Ice Age, I think we put some rough numbers in there, SDCs. We just couldn't do the water side because not knowing what's going in there yet. So.
There's some definite, okay, in that number. There's that hole, but there's a lot of, road. There's other dollars that are, we haven't counted yet, that could be counted. Okay.
And, when you compare the two, too, if we don't get comfortable with the bridge, we lose that $4 million state. Funding as well.
And not only that, but potential future asks from federal or state.
I think it would give us a black eye with the state.
So if we just, you said we could borrow safely 13 to 14 million, or
Could the waterfront handle that?
We're still running, I'm still getting some stuff put together, because in the next 5 years, we'll just say, we have to finish up the treatment plant expansion in Wilsonville now, and we still have a pretty good chunk of money. It's up to, I think we've spent 5 or 6, and I think we're up to about 10 is what the project costs. So you got that. We have to update our water master plan. We have to do a water conservation. Those are mandates from the state. So we're going through the stuff that we actually have to have now for the water, funding wise, and then that will be provided to David. Just haven't got that.
So that 14 million, just a quick back of the napkin here, that gets us to a bridge, but we don't get anything towards Ice Age, then. No, the 14 plus the 16 that's in the pot, right?
Is the bridge paid for?
We have the 3 million. For Ice Age.
No, but I'm saying that we couldn't get the 3 million because we wouldn't have any money to do Ice Age. If we spent all of that 13 that we took from the water fund, and we took everything from that bucket.
We still have to come up with about, according to those estimates, 17 minus the 3, so 14.8 million.
Yeah,
But we can start spending that 3, correct?
So right now, we cannot start spending.
Well,
that
not
three.
now, but once you have an idea.
But once we have some agreements in place, we
Right.
can't even go after right away until we have agreements in place, because ODOT, that's part of the requirements of the funding coming through ODOT.
So, back of the napkin, 14 million needed to be for Ice Age. Once it's built, you've got in today's dollars, $4 million of land sale to recoup. So now you're down to 10 in today's dollars. Then you've got road, STCs, transportation STCs, and, other development fees for water, sewer, that also play into the mix. And those are not small for, a large industrial area like that. So now you're whittling it down quite, and I don't know how low it gets whittled, but it gets whittled pretty good.
That's money that comes in after. How do we pay for it until? then?
yeah.
Well, we're getting that now with projects that are being built now. And are in for permits now. So there are some pretty big buildings that have come up in that area and are being finished now.
It seems like you're making the argument then that that if we were to take the 14 million and do Ice Age first, we'd be able to recover a lot of that money that we would then be able to reuse and do the bridge.
Oh, no, if we delay on the bridge cost is only gonna continue to,
I know, but Ice Age is.
That's true of everything.
Yeah, everything's gonna go up, right?
That's not what you're saying.
No, I know, but that's, my thinking is that if Ice Age goes in, there's revenue then that comes back to us. if the bridge goes in, there's not necessarily revenue that comes back to us,
True.
right? And so that's where,
Unless we put it on if you put the bridge in, park master plans and, yeah, park master plan, if the bridge is part of the park master plan or the transportation master plan, then you can get, that is an asset that you build and you can get funding back through those vehicles.
oh,
Absolutely,
I don't
because we've
necessarily
done-
want us- Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Keith.
but that's just,
I don't know, if I want to spend park money on the bridge, but,
Regular. Go ahead.
the way that I'm changing gears, so if you had to respond to that. go ahead.
Well, can I just add some of that? Because when we set the, for instance, we're gonna go through the process, set in SDCs for Sugar West, assuming that we, do an ask and it comes in, so we can build that in to the SDCs. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, there,
Just the way I look at this. I like to boil things down to simple terms. And everything I'm hearing here tells me we can very comfortably, without any qualms, build one or the other. And I would have no real issue with that. If we want to do the bridge now, we can make that happen through the ways we've talked about very comfortably. But it may, we don't know, because we don't have enough data yet. It may put at risk our ability to comfortably do Ice Age Drive. What it's time to do Ice Age Drive, and we may have to find some other funding from, and there's ways to do that, but it is a risk. It is a risk.
yeah, and I agree with you, and my, kind of where my head is on it, I agree 100% with that logic, is we have more options with Ice Age Drive in terms of how we phase into it and how we go after funds than we would with the bridge. Bridge is much.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I could see us sitting here potentially. In a year, 18 months, and we're gung ho at Ice Age Drive, and there's developments booming, and we want to open it up, and we're struggling to find the funding to do it, and we got to pay back the water fund because those things are going to happen, and we're tapped, right? And then that's a possibility. That's a risk.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's not worth doing. I'm just saying that's.
Yeah.
How I'm looking at this.
Yeah.
And I think in a certain amount of time, and I think you were saying maybe 5 to 10 years, I can't remember the date when we talked the other day, but eventually we'll have capacity in the URA to borrow against it. Water, interest rates could come down and we could bond against it and put that money right back into
well, that's
the
great. Yeah.
water fund.
Right. I mean, with the URA facility is huge. And the amount of debt that are in projects is huge. And so we're outperforming the plan that was adopted the other day, a year, 2 years ago, whatever it was now, 3 years ago. And then it's kind of we're still thankfully that way, but if we continue, then yes, there'll be future borrowings, just like, which is the nature of URAs.
No, I already anticipate there'll be future borrowings. It's just a matter of when we'll hit that magic number to where we have the proper TIF revenue, so we can go out on the market, which if we're borrowing from the water fund, essentially, we are going out for a borrowing, but it's just a matter of when we can go out for that additional amount too. So
If the TIF revenue is there, the TIF revenue would pay back the water fund. If where you can go out, just, it's all a question of where.
yeah, or you can go out for a bigger loan and that could pay back the water fund and then.
Well, this
Yes,
is only talking about two of the projects.
Yep.
The bridge and Ice Age. There's still the Public Works facility and
Currently,
some of those
we
others.
have put in for the $5 million grant for Brownsfield on that property. And we'll be going to look at other money shortly too from the state for that project, for the cleanup side. I think it doesn't get you to the Public Works building at $30 million, but
Except one, we gotta clean it up.
yeah, clean it up first. Right? So
Goes out 20 some years.
So.
you're right, there is some other projects we're working on.
The total capacity of the URA is.
yeah, the maximum indebtedness is
$167.
$166 million, and according to that URA plan in today's dollars, that would have been like $80 million in projects, but we know the whole world had changed since that URA
Now
plan.
it's based on a kind of an assumed timeline of projects, which isn't even real anymore, so, yeah.
Well, are we gonna talk about some value engineering options that might help as well?
So just kind of, since we got the bids, KPFF, we've got Craig, Kurt, and Nick here. We met, we went over they thought we could actual value engineer out. We met with the contractor last Wednesday. They provided some cost at the end of today that we have in here, like literally, these guys were reviewing it. There's a couple of them that we think are there can be more savings, that they didn't quite give us what we wanted. So I'll let these guys go into.
So since it's so fresh, you know,
Yeah.
potentially do we need to? I know what everyone's world is like, but depending upon where we're at with info, if we need more info, we could meet next week.
Yeah, so that's what
The
I'm.
mayor, it's
That's what I'm
supportive.
gonna say. So we got the info, the best information we have today. Usually it goes back and forth a few times.
Yeah,
But we wanted to give you not only what that would look like, but we have some different slides in the presentation that will show you what you would actually be getting
Yeah, good.
for value engineering versus what you have right now. So you can make those, because if you sit here tonight and tell us, we're not interested in looking at that other stuff, that at least everybody's talking about value engineering. And so we got a little information, quite a bit actually, but we just need a little bit of direction.
So just before this is awesome, I can't wait to see it, but Ryan, we do have a time limit on this. If we don't, we have a deadline to award, or we have to start the whole process over again, right?
Yeah, 30 days from the date of the closing, I believe, or the date we received the bid.
October 31st?
So yeah, it'll be next week when we have to make a decision. If we're gonna go with this other direction.
Am I right, though, that there isn't, that you can extend if you have an agreement with the contract?
That's right, but they're bound firm offer 30 days. They don't have to extend if they don't want to, but yes.
So we
Right.
not accept.
See it. All right.
So
Oh, no, I was just gonna ask Mark, because if I hit escape, I don't want to end the work session like.
Good. Come back and talk about this budget portion at all.
And they're all.
Let's go to that, we can come back. Yeah. Unless, do you have a question now you want to get answered? You want to see there's.
I think it's more than just a second.
Okay.
Oh, you know, yeah. Right. Oh, so it's true.
Did you copy it to? The final list?
I was gonna use the SharePoint that you sent over, or you would rather?
If you have it locally, then that's probably better, will be. Because I think that, yeah, that's it. So that way it's all loaded up.
I go down Roy Rogers, Shrewsbury.
PowerPoint on here, then I can go back.
We have a call license on.
Outside high school yesterday morning.
What did you say?
So
Can we just get the license installed on this computer?
That's it, but that's- somebody dead, right?
It's the account unlock it. Let's get that fixed. Yeah.
All right,
Safety factor.
so we are here to talk about something that frankly I was hoping we wouldn't have to talk about, is that the bids came in significantly over estimate. So we'll talk a little bit about the bid results. We do have a range of, I don't know, there's at least a half a dozen VE items and a couple of other smaller ones that we could talk about. And really, we're hoping to get at least, if not tonight, very soon, get it to some direction as to what we want to start looking at as far as actual incorporation of value engineering items. So with that, let's go to the bid results thing.
And when you talk about the value engineer elements, we talk about what that would do to a schedule and.
We'll do it, yeah, we'll do our best on that. Yeah, there's.
I mean, or some of these, you have to go do stuff and it's gonna spend 6 months and then they have to rebid it, or
Yeah, and we'll do our best to answer that. The part about the rebid is something that I'm not totally clear on myself. What would trigger the need to do that? So we're hoping that what we're gonna talk about tonight can be incorporated, assuming we can get the contractor to basically give us a reasonable price break for the value engineering items.
Gotcha.
That if we can get there, we still think that we could get there and hold that basically opening the bridge by, what was it, August 2025. So that's our goal as of tonight. a lot of it depends on how quickly we make decisions and how quickly we get up to moving. So, I don't know if folks have seen this, but this was a graphic that Nick put together for us that kind of captured the engineer's estimate on the left side with kind of the major pieces of work. And you can see pretty quickly that where we ended up getting significant cost increases from our estimate really fell with the arch steel and then primarily railings and the lighting system itself. And, you know, we do believe that a fair amount of that had to do with material costs, but it also had a lot to do with the complexity of the application. And I think the contractors, as they got in and started really looking at it, had a lot more labor time built in than what we had anticipated with the estimates. Like you said that accurately, correct?
How is there a difference of $5 million in arch steel from one person to the next?
It depends on, you know, contractors will low cost into different items. So
Yeah.
it's really hard to actually figure out exactly why that was there.
It's
because-
not apples, apples.
Exactly.
Okay,
One might have put some in the other steel and miscellaneous structure rather than the arch steel, so you have the,
yeah.
If you add up all the steel items, they're somewhat consistent with the
Yeah,
items, so.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so it was pretty apparent though that, you know, if we wanted to look at trying to reduce costs, there were the three main areas where we could actually start to get some fairly significant decreases. The arch steel is one that we didn't mess with because frankly, if you look at the low bid, they were up quite a bit, but you know, across the board, it actually stayed somewhat lower. So with that, I think we can jump in and start talking about the VE items. I'll keep going for a few minutes and then you gotta jump in. So the one thing to point out is that we do feel pretty strongly that none of the VE items that we're talking about here will have a significant visual impact of when looking at the bridge from afar, from driving underneath it, what have you. You will see some delta with that with regard to the transparency level of the railings. And kind of a couple of the items a couple of the ideas that we're looking at. But in general, the overall shape of the bridge, the overall spans, the layout, everything stays consistent. Current project design, I think everybody has seen this many times over the past year and a half.
it's so big.
Yeah, it's not a small project. And with that, I will turn it over to President Nick.
All right, so as Kurt said, we knew the aesthetic, the overall aesthetic is one that we will try to maintain, but also from a schedule perspective, if we change that, then we really are starting from scratch. So what we tried to do was hit the high cost items that we felt we could change the design and also in a relatively fast schedule and also would have the biggest hit cost wise, the biggest bang for the buck. So we categorize this into a few different areas. We'll start off. Number one was we're using stainless steel extensively throughout the project for the railings. And that stainless steel could be changed to galvanizing homes with very little redesign. And so that would be a very fast way to approach this. The numbers we got from contractor today said that savings was in the order of $600,000 to $800,000. If we want to go to the next slide. So as a reminder, that's what our railing is now. It's a lightweight steel mesh, stainless steel mesh with stainless steel supports, and those supports would go to being galvanized. And then just as a reminder, galvanized versus stainless, yeah, go to that slide. You know, stainless is beautiful. It's low maintenance, it lasts for a very, very long time. Galvanizing is very commonly used in exterior construction projects. Doesn't quite have that finesse of stainless steel, but it's something that people are used to seeing in public installations because it is relatively inexpensive and it also lasts for a very long time.
What about the maintenance on
Maintenance,
galvanized versus
you know,
stainless?
in our environment, it's galvanizing lasts a really long time. Craig, question to Jason, but a question to us earlier, and I went out to a bridge we did in the late 90s, the Sunset Transit Bridge. Some of you may have seen that. It goes from the parking garage across Highway 26, and it's galvanized, the railings and the mesh. And I think we have a photograph coming up later. It looks the same to me as it did 25 years ago, so it's.
And we're painting it, correct? We're painting it, aren't we?
Not necessarily.
No,
We have the option to do that. The problem is when you paint it, then you
Yeah.
do that doesn't mean.
that we chose white.
That's not, this is the railing, this isn't arch. The arches, the main arches are still white,
Okay,
the discussion.
gotcha, thank you.
Yeah, so just a few examples of where you see stainless versus galvanizing. And then a kind of combination, so on the left is all stainless, which is our current design. On the right, that's up at Vancouver Landing on the Columbia River. And there they've got a combination of the same stainless steel mesh that we have currently in the bridge with galvanized supports. So just give you an idea of that, that's probably the closest precedent we have to what would be in this VE idea.
As the recommendation was to keep the stainless mesh and change the rails to galvanized.
In this option.
This first option, that's what we asked them to.
Wait, I thought it kept the rails stainless as well, and the supports were what were changing. Did I get that wrong?
Yeah, under this side, that.
In this price range, yes. So yeah, that's not reflected in it, sure.
Next slide. So just a couple of examples around town. The Darlene Hilley Bridge, it's on Gibbs Street, just as you come into downtown on I-5. That's all galvanized. That railing, the mesh on that case is actually just chain link, galvanized chain link. And then on the right there, that's the Barbara Walker crossing. That's the Wildwood Trail where it crosses Burnside. That one, similar to what we're discussing here, the rails are galvanized, but the mesh is stainless steel on that. So that's the first VE idea we asked them to price. The second was essentially a wholesale change of the railing, and because the lighting for the bridge is integral to the railing and how the railing is supported, it also changes the lighting. So yeah, look where there's a lot of money savings potential here. With right now we have the illumination of the deck is in the handrail. So that would come out of the handrail and be provided by poles, which is what the same poles that we have on the approaches to the bridge at the moment, but would be attached to the side of the bridge. The lighting of the arch currently goes from the edge of the deck up, so it's an uplight arch that also lights the rail. That could be changed to strip lights that are on the arch, LED strip lights. So that's what would be the big change in the lighting.
So then those lights, like they would be shining outwardly. They're not using reflective anymore. They're not reflecting anymore.
No, it would actually be a much more defined
Light.
line.
So then you could paint the bridge red and still have the same color.
Oh, no.
That was my holy grail.
That's the whole year.
Well, we do have some photos that kind of show the difference between basically what we have proposed now and what the strip lighting would look like. So we do have some precedents.
And those cost savings, that's if we do all three of those, is that correct?
These all go together, yeah.
Yeah, and then the railing, and this one we get with. We'll get to that in just a second.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
We'll let them go out there.
Well, I guess on this option, just make sure I understand it. So that are all of these items that we think we could value engineer within the current scope, or would have to go into bid?
We would hope to do it within the current bid, but there's a bit, I mean, I guess I don't. The legal side of things, we'd want to make sure that, I think one of the risks we have is that if we need to get a good price from the contractor to make these changes, or we're open to a protest from other bidders. Right, so that's why there's a range here, and we really need to.
So we got
own in on these numbers.
Yeah, so we'd have to have them agree.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
David, do we have a breakdown, like how? Can you go back up to that?
Yeah.
Like, I would be in favor maybe of some of these changes, but not all of them. Like, do you have a breakdown of how this three to 4.5 million is dispersed across the changes? Can we do that?
Kind of. I think maybe the main thing we want to hear is which pieces you think are doable or not. And then from there, we can refine the exact numbers.
So we have some more of a breakdown, but that's we got it this afternoon, and we're not real comfortable with it yet, so we need to work on that.
Yeah,
Craig, and that came from the vendor.
That come from the contractor, yeah.
Yeah.
So it'd come at the end of the day, these guys were trying to get through it, but we're gonna have to sit down, because like I said, it's gonna have to go back and forth a little
Yeah.
bit, just not off what they said, so that we feel comfortable with it.
yeah.
I I have heartburn about the idea of reducing the deck.
Yeah, we have lots of images to.
Let's just, maybe we just go through these and
Okay.
if they don't answer your questions, we can certainly circle back. So yeah, there, as we said on the lighting, we would get away from the lights that would be integral to the handrails. And we'd go to pole lights and a strip light on the edges of the arches to see them better. So that's, if you, on the left is, it's not our bridge obviously, but it's an idea of when the lighting comes from the rail. Versus pole light you can see on the right, so it's not quite as uniform a light. But it still would meet the safety requirements. So yeah,
So currently we have the pole lights just on the high school side, and we would just be applying that all the way across.
so you can see that not exactly consistent, but
Yeah.
it's pretty, I mean, it's kind of like any sidewalk with it. You go from the lighter to the darker, so it's not what we were hoping for, but it would certainly still be a safe, meet the safety requirements. And then the same with the lighting of the arches. Right now, we currently have an uplight that kind of illuminates the railing and the cables as well as the arches. And then that would go to more of a, on the right there, you see there's a much more defined strip light that would be on the side of the arch there.
And one thing that we have talked about is that there obviously maintenance of those if and when, if you started having LEDs go out, there would be some effort to basically do that, but the idea is the LEDs are lasting a lot longer today than they did 5 years ago.
So what's an effort mean?
Potentially having to get a lift out onto the deck. And quite likely, if you're over the highway, you'd probably have to basically have some clearance with that.
Close the road. How often would you need to change that? Like how often LEDs go out, 5 years, 10 years?
I mean, numbers I've heard of 10 to 15, but this product, we haven't, it's just an alternative right now, we certainly.
It hasn't been around for 10 years.
Yeah, so it would mean probably a lane closure, if like a fixture had to be.
Yeah.
Addressed.
Having to do that every 10 years doesn't seem like that big of a problem. But getting
What's the-
approval is.
So what, I mean, if you close roads and replace fixtures, you probably will do a lot, almost, what are the maintenance, this gives me a lot of heartburn too, just because of.
You say you do all the maintenance at once, if you did that.
Right, you probably, you replace, half of them, in one swath because you're gonna be, spending all the labor to close lanes and deal with that.
Well,
So,
we have the other problem where, well, only one of them's burned out, and so we'll put it off until we've got a few more, and then okay, well, now we've got 8, and it looks.
whereas if they're on the ground and they're shining up, and it's okay, that one's out, just quick, boom, boom,
Yeah, I get that.
swap it out.
Is there a way to diffuse it? I mean, I know it's a sharper line, but we could obviously, put some sort of diffuser over it, but is there, okay, and that's showing with the diffuser, okay.
I think so.
I do like the way it looks.
Yeah, the look doesn't bother me, it's the
The maintenance.
maintenance part.
I actually like the right.
Would it be helpful to, I'm pretty sure we could get this pulled together, is to come up with more of a life cycle cost on this, and I mean, if whatever, we can get the manufacturer to say, yeah, the last X
Mhm.
years.
Yeah,
We
well, 'cause it
anticipate.
saves us 3 million now, but it's $1 million every 5 years.
Yeah, and I doubt, I seriously doubt it's that kind of a hit, but.
Yeah.
But there certainly is a long-term cost.
Yeah.
You're gonna have some long-term costs with the uplights too, though, so that's, trying to balance those out. The hassle of changing them on the.
That's not the cost of the bulb, it's the labor.
Yeah.
Let's get it, I mean, what's the peak height of our tallest arch?
Yes, that's 40 feet from the bridge deck, so about 60 feet from the road.
That is that is an extension ladder.
Yeah. We'll send you up there, Keith.
Craig said he'd just go climb.
Mayor, would you mind flying the helicopter and just dangle me down below?
I would love to do that, but it would probably be a lot more expensive.
Yeah.
Okay, just so you guys know, we have had a lot of conversations within the last week of the maintenance cost if we were to go this direction, so.
If we went this direction, does this give you heartburn?
a little bit with the maintenance cost of having to close Highway 99 down if you had to and go through that process. But if you don't have to do it that often,
Yeah.
that's the hundred,
That's the question, right?
And what's the dollar amount we're talking just on this piece? That we evaluate?
This is one that we're not.
Not
we're not
confident yet.
comfortable that we're going to-
And I will hold it to you, but is it hundreds of thousands or millions?
We think it should be closer to the latter, but that's not the number we saw this afternoon, so.
Okay, see more conversation, more information.
Yeah, we think this number came together at the last minute for the contractor as well, the reduction.
And it was 3 to 4.5 is what the number that you had on
And
that.
that's inclusive
With the
there.
raisins also.
Right, so.
Yeah.
I-
Galvanized.
Okay.
Granted, we wouldn't have probably, it's a 10 to 15 year duration ball.
Right.
But someone mentioned it, I don't like the idea of having segments out for a long
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Cause it just. it
Right,
just
one's out, but not enough to,
Sends a message that we're not taking care of.
Totally get it, yeah.
So-
Yeah.
And I like the one in black. That's just me.
So the railing design, we would go to a galvanized, so rather than the stainless steel mesh, this would be a galvanized, welded wire fabric essentially. Here you see that this is the throw bar area where we're protecting the roads from anything being dropped on them. It's essentially, if you go to the slide that shows just the lower, oops. Oh, okay, so there's the mesh difference, so, and that, not necessarily the product we use on the right there, but we want to make it around the same size opening that we have with stainless steel.
But it would be that pattern versus the truck,
So
that, instead of diamonds, it would be
it
rectangles.
would be a rectangle, so a good example locally, again, that bridge in over 26, the Sunset Transit Center, that's this welded mesh. And as I said, that's about 25 years old now, it's holding up pretty well.
Is that worth it? Right.
So as far as the computer, before and after, on the left side is what we have bid at the moment with the lightweight stainless mesh, and on the right is the welded wire fabric. So there's definitely more to it in terms of heft. But as mentioned before, this is used a lot around bridges and public structures around town.
So you're more comfortable with the numbers that came in on this?
Yeah, the railing part, 2.5 to 3 million,
Oh, okay.
potentially just in the railings.
To change to galvanized.
To change the whole design.
Yeah.
The welded
Yeah.
squares instead of the diamonds.
So you're saying that we would change from the left look to the right look?
Yeah, and we have a few different views of that, and that's,
Can we have the right look with the diamonds mesh instead of the rectangle?
There are other products out there, to do that.
Yeah.
They use it, you typically see them more in a security case because they're not easy to climb.
Yeah, I feel like those are easy to climb, those rectangles are easy. What are the,
it's 2-inch center opening.
no, on the left hand, what is the material there we're using?
That's the
Galvanized mesh,
The stainless steel.
or stainless.
Okay, well, it looked like, I couldn't see it when I went.
I know, that's
on the
the
next
beauty.
slide, it looked like a clear panel or something.
That's why.
the beauty of it,
That's the
right?
beauty of it, right? We're getting chunky
Okay.
for 2 million and say.
Keep going. Sorry.
That's well said.
Yeah.
But just to make sure on the opening side, it's designed so you can't get like a toe in it. So it's hard to
Correct.
line.
Yeah, in both cases.
It's not meant, it's an anti-climb, just to be clear, this is not
Yeah.
it's a throw barrier where it's tall and then it's an
But it's not a
infill.
ladder either.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's not ladder.
We're not guaranteeing nobody can climb.
No, somebody wants to climb,
Somebody
they'll
will
climb
climb
out
out
of
of the
there.
other side.
Yeah, so again, current design on the left and then the galvanized on the right.
I feel like I'm looking through a chain link fence over there instead of,
We would still lean it out, just so it doesn't quite have that canyon feel to it.
Yeah.
The upper part.
But it's just, yes, you can
Yeah,
see
but,
here,
But the real savings here is in the complexity to maximize the width in the current design. We integrated the mesh with the cables, and in the arches, you can see there on the left, everything is in the plane of the arches to maximize that width. The savings and complexity is to pull everything just inboard of the cables on the arches, which we lose a little bit of width on the main span, but where it really matters is where the arches come down. We're necking down. You can see it on the right. There's the railing would come on the inside of the arches. So there'd be these, I won't say pinch points, because this is still a wide bridge there, but it would be localized areas.
So this is where you're referring where it gets narrower, you're not actually narrowing the deck surface.
No, the deck surface
It's
just
where-
by
it's
2 inches.
The fencing lands.
So is that a foot on either?
That's what it showed like it.
Yeah, so this is about 12 inches on each side. 12 to 14 inches.
The deck is still there, but there's less feet.
So get you down to just,
11,
just under,
or so.
yeah, just under 12 feet versus 14.
Yeah.
But then it gets, then we actually, once you get away from those quote pinch points, you basically get out to, what's the?
13.8, so we just lose this, and this is, I guess, the other thing to mention, this is also tied to the lighting change, so right now.
Yeah.
We have the light fixtures integrated into the curb. We
Yeah.
would replace that with just a concrete curb, that's just a little bit wider. 2 inches on each side.
Did you do all of this? Like keep the lighting this thing?
Not what was priced, but there would be ways to do that if that's the decision.
We could, yeah, parts of it.
It wouldn't eliminate, because now the rail would be inboard, so it wouldn't eliminate the mesh screen the way it currently does. Yeah, let's keep going.
So, yeah.
So from the, from the road, there's. Other than people here to see the 4.5 view, it's not gonna be noticeable in terms of the aesthetic.
But
Well, it's not noticeable, except, part of the reason we chose the design was that sine curve versus, and it's still there, but you definitely have that heavier grid of the welded, so it's not just this, light magical, bridge there, it's a little bit more industrial.
There's more to the rail figure, it's a heavier rail.
Yeah. Okay, anything else?
And just a note on here, this does show the extra poles for the lighting, but it's very subtle.
you can't see,
You can barely see them. So,
I was like looking for them.
yeah. It's slightly there.
It's only 12-inch day.
4-inch diameter.
4-inch day.
Oh, the pole for storage.
Yeah, so I guess you can see those on here as well, right? So on the right, we add just a couple of
Oh, there we
poles.
go.
There's no,
Fixtures integrated into the poles, so it's not like there's a pendant or anything.
Yes, it's just a cylinder.
So next VE item that we thought was a fairly easy deduct if you decide to go this way is the stair. So right now the stair provides non-ADA access because it's a stair, it's not gonna meet ADA. Onto the highway northbound sidewalk, so definitely a benefit to the project, but it's not essential because you can go around, and in fact, for ADA access, you have to go around it.
Could the stairs ever be added after the fact? Some later date?
We actually had thought about that.
Cause I know the reason why we talked about it is for people coming
Actually, for the trail.
from. Mhm, yeah.
So if that's, just to throw this out, that's something that, if you were to eliminate, and you were to come back to put in later, you could actually probably go after, state money from the Oregon Park and Rec for trails on that, so.
Good thought,
It's
Frank.
part of the overall.
Similar to how we funded the skate park, that would, I think, Kristen.
You're saying we'd only get half of the savings if we didn't do the other one.
Well, this is the difficulty because we're showing standalone VE options, and part of the rail VE was to save money on the railing that's on the stair. So if you delete the stair, the money that's in there to delete the stair, you would lose that.
Can't double dip on.
Yeah, can't double dip on the
Save
savings.
800,000 on deleting the stair, but you're gonna lose 400,000 in savings on the other one.
Right, yeah, exactly, yeah. Is that the correct numbers, or was that?
That one, I think we did have more confidence in.
So what's the net savings?
So it's about 700 to 800 to take it out completely, but we could save half of that by taking the railing change alone. So right now the railing is the bulk.
So
of
if we
it.
did the railing change, it'd be 350 to 400.
Yes,
Be an additional 300 to 400 if you delete
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So
So going back on the railing stuff, I feel like I've heard, and maybe I'm just confused, because it feels like when we started, we talked about changing some of the railing to galvanized, but leaving some of it stainless steel. And then we moved into the option that we've just been looking at where everything goes to galvanized, which I hate. Just to be frank. No, I know, I'm not, you're not suggesting it, you're doing your job.
We're giving you options.
You're doing your job, you're doing your job.
Don't shoot the messenger.
Yeah, you're just messing. So. Okay,
In both cases, that is applied to all railings on the project, which is kind of that blue line.
right, yeah.
And so it does include the stair, and the current railing design on the stair has a lot of stainless steel, and so there's a lot of opportunity for savings just on that piece.
The only things that stand out to me is potentially the rail lighting to poles and the stairs, the east ramp stairs railing.
What about galvanized rails, but stainless steel mesh?
What are we done with?
A couple more short ones to show really quick.
I'm not really all that excited about it.
So there's smaller pots of money available, you know, one of the things we did is we, just for pedestrian guidance, we added, we took the rail all the way down to the sidewalk at the east landing. That's not actually required by code, if you go to the renderings there, that's what we have right now. And in fact, because there isn't a drop off, we don't actually need anything there, so it could look like that. So,
Then people run up and down the grass and.
Yeah. Well, that actually was one of the reasons that we ended up putting in railing, was to keep people from doing that, so.
but then there's also an intermediate level, maybe we don't do the full rail, we just have some kind of a guide bar, so if that's a little better.
Yeah.
But there's, with that, the kid's just gonna go up and duck under the rail.
Yeah, or roll around it, yeah. There's a monkey bar.
But there's steps at the corner there too, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's not like.
Is that okay?
It's a reminder of
Do we care?
steps at the corner. So it's not like,
What could be
when
kids?
you're approaching it, you're gonna have a natural path. It's not gonna be like, I'm gonna go halfway and then go through the grass. Yeah.
I don't know, I would only be concerned with it being so near the skate park that you would try to grind that rail all the way down.
Skate deterrents. Yeah, skate deterrents.
This is without.
This is with nothing.
Yeah.
Oh.
And what would the savings on that be approximately?
This is 400,000 to 500,000.
Well, the service, just cut down grass.
That was the completely thing.
The 400,
Cut down the grass. Oh.
Okay, so the 400, include putting back the.
and then maybe up to 500 if you didn't put anything back.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
As soon as they get too far, everybody go on the same place.
And keep in mind, part of that had to do with the fact that with the rails, we had rail lighting on these pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can see we just added a few more.
So with here, I think it's just important to remember, you know, the different ways people access this. So if they're walking down Sunset, then they just boom, you know, scoot across. If they're going across Sunset at the light,
There's steps.
there's steps.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not worried about that. It's a no-brainer to me.
So for me, removing
I
that
would,
is,
I would do that one and the east stairs, we could add later.
Is there?
yeah, and we could add
Consensus
the
on
rail, we could add the rail later. Oh, do we have still more of those?
There's a couple
Everything
more really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Almost there.
yeah, 400 to 500, yeah.
So before we move on, can we go back to three, the step where it shows the stairs real quick?
Yeah.
And I don't know the grades here, but is it? I don't know, is this elevated right here?
This is
Yeah.
all ramp, yeah.
This is all, okay, now I was thinking, could you put steps over there? or something
Yeah,
like
you
that?
can kind of see it here better, so that's,
Oh, never mind.
yeah.
Okay. That was great.
Yeah.
so we could do those stairs later in theory, or we just save the money on change the railing.
We could not, yeah, or we just not build it now and then
Build it later.
like either we build it later, or we decide we don't need to build it later, nobody's really clamoring for it.
That's where I was talking to Keith about, that might be something to go after, ORPA's grant money,
Yeah.
like we built the
We
skate
better.
park. If
So other smaller items that are out there. At the east landing, we have a steel plate retaining wall that's part of the landscape design that you see on the left there, there's a step there that could go away. Yeah, could be either more of a slope or a higher concrete wall. in there. That was, how much was that? It was in the 100 to 140, yeah.
Yeah.
We have lighting on the art wall. Which could be deferred or deleted.
Yeah, same.
Delete art wall lighting, project scope, so
We
the
still have the wall, but not the lighting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that can be paid for with some of those other
other money, there's other money.
bad light after, right?
Or you keep it in
How
the
much-
project, but we pay for it with other dollars.
How much was that?
for that one? Those ones.
That one's like maybe 10 to 20. That's one of the ones we don't have. We don't have as good of a. I think it's on it.
Leave the lights.
I think
Let me
that-
analyze it.
So small that.
Yeah.
Kind of like.
Leave the lights and maybe TLT pays for it.
Then we have the rods and the struts that hold the deck up from the arches. Those are stainless steel right now, so they'll put up, also put a galvanized.
Doubles the thickness, basically, looks like.
Doesn't change the thickness.
Oh, well, look here.
That's just, it's just highlighting what we're talking about here. Those, they wouldn't actually be red.
Oh, I see what you're
Yeah.
saying.
Just wanna make sure you
Yeah.
understood what we're talking about.
Those are the pieces.
The ones are thicker already, I got you.
Yeah, the compression struts are thicker.
Yeah, yeah.
So that would be, what was the savings on that?
100 to 130. A lot smaller than the railing savings, but still could save some.
And then there was the path down in Kruger. I know this was discussed a lot during design, but where we ended up landing it then requires a handrail because of the slope.
Right.
So if we stretched it just a little bit closer to where the exit is from the stadium, we could get rid of that handrail, which was surprisingly expensive handrail. So that was one.
Do we need any approval from the high school to make this change?
The reason we did move it was exactly because the high school raised some concern about the proximity to that point of connection up to the stadium. That was why we did it. So there might be a need for them to.
I don't know if they understood it was 100 feet. I mean, we were 100 feet.
When we had that conversation, we were directly connecting
Okay.
at their path.
Yeah.
And what's the savings?
So if we just jump back to all four of those, so that one's actually the biggest of those four.
So
So
for
the
this list, I would do A and D.
I like A and D.
You would keep it.
No, those are the ones I would.
Delete, I would support.
Those are the savings I would try to recoup, are A and D.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
A, D.
Oh,
A and D.
I would.
Oh, I thought you said B. B, really?
Is D?
No, I agree on A and B, but I would.
No, they're saying.
A and D.
A.
Oh,
like the
Alpha and David,
Alpha and Delta.
Alpha and Delta.
You weren't the only one having it.
Yeah, you hearing, yeah.
David and David.
Okay, so are we all done with all that just now?
That's all of them.
That's all.
And
yeah.
it sounds like consensus on.
Hold on.
Discussion.
I would say C
Too
is.
loud, people.
You're one of them.
I wasn't saying A or D, I was just yelling at him, it was D, not B.
That's what makes it the loudest.
So.
Right. So Lydia just mentioned slides aren't showing on YouTube.
Oh,
So I
no.
don't know if we can just load the PowerPoint later, but I just wanted to let you know that
Oh.
if people are
Do we
watching.
have to
they
push
can't
a-
see that.
Share screen button on here,
Yeah,
maybe?
he can't do it unless he turns it all off.
Oh,
So I don't know.
We'll
if
just
we can
upload it.
restart.
We'll,
Load the PowerPoint later.
David, it's okay, you're gonna lose
For
it.
those that might be listening, we will post that online later so everybody can see it. Is that okay? Mr. City Attorney?
Yes.
Okay, fine. Awesome, thank you.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, do a consensus on these and then talk about the other items.
So I'm gonna push back on that a little bit, because the only reason I'm again.
Put you back on the idea that we.
No, the only.
These first or?
Yeah, because the only reason I would say they're not self-contained is because C is not, right? If we say we're going stainless steel all the way, right, I feel like having galvanized in there is weird.
Well, so why don't we say this?
We'll defer C.
If we could say, is there knowing that we're gonna come back to B and C, is there consensus on A and D?
I'm good with A and D.
To remove that tiny wall and adjust the path.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
Renee?
know with that.
Renee, Keith? All right, so we'll come back to talk about the stainless steel stuff. Right?
Right, yeah, so my feeling on the stainless steel, I mean. Spending 26 million on a bridge versus 29 on a bridge. And having one that looks. You know. Nicer versus looks more industrial, like I'm not sure about that. Both are tremendously more expensive than I thought the bridge would be, right? And so it's almost like we're saying. We're gonna spend a little bit less money, but we're gonna get aesthetically
Way less than we wanted.
And we're spending way more than we were gonna spend, you know what I mean? You and I are thinking of like, after hearing all of this and saying A and D, the only other two things that I would wanna do would be remove the staircase and remove the railing next to the Y, and I would leave everything else as is.
Yeah, so I would agree with those two for my personal, I think I'd be open to the lighting. I think we have a big question mark on that, right? Because
Which version, which
The arch
lighting?
lighting,
if we said we're going with the strip versus reflected up. Because if they say it's 3 million, or what was the difference on that?
they don't know.
We don't know, right?
Just so we can keep going here,
Okay.
so leave lighting still on the table, but is there agreement to add the stairs and then the railings on the approach end on
So
Sunset?
remove the stairs and
Remove those two items, is there consensus on that?
Yes.
I
Okay.
agree, and because that can be looked at a later date,
So
If
we're-
we-
So,
determine we still need it.
so we're down to lighting and galvanized versus stainless.
Different lighting options, so you've got
We have-
the
yeah,
arch
dash lighting.
lighting, you've got the pole,
arch lighting.
the hand railing lighting,
I kind of don't
and
like
then
the
you've got galvanized in different areas.
Since Taylor brought it up, let's talk about the arch lighting first.
Yeah, so I'm actually open to this if we had a little bit more solidness around it, because I think both would convey. The uplighting is more elegant and it is, I think, easier to maintain, was what we heard. The vibe it gives off when you're looking at the bridge, I feel like would be equal when you're. As a casual observer, right? We've been heads down in it forever, so to us, we notice the difference. But to a casual observer driving under it, I don't know that they would be like, oh, the lighting is a little bit blotchy when you're walking across it. I like the look of the integrated lighting, but I think for the right price, I'd be okay. I don't know that it makes a
Are you talking about the uplights or the railings?
both of them. I'm saying, I think we can talk about both.
separately.
Okay, separate, okay, on this light, the uplight, I think I would be okay with it, but I feel like I don't have a dollar amount that's believable yet
You'd be okay with on the arches?
on the arches.
The thing that excites me about on the arches is that we can paint the bridge red. And have the lighting.
We're not going back to that conversation, are we?
The whole point about the white was because it was reflected.
Yeah,
I
you're
mean,
right.
there were at least myself, and I think a couple others. Wanted the red with the lighting effect of the white, and this would give us
I
that.
agree 100%.
Yeah,
All I see is maintenance.
But that's the concern.
But I also, and I
The
just.
idea of a zone crapping out.
We'll have zones out, panels out.
And they're out for months while
Because we don't want to
coordinate
go
the state.
Look like
deal
shit.
with it every year, we'll let it
Right.
stack up.
yeah, that's the
But we have
problem.
no idea what the dollar difference is.
We don't yet. Yeah, we can certainly work on getting that.
So I think
Is it-
two answers on that would be the dollar savings and how the estimated time that the lights would last is what we need to know.
And my vote, our opinion, and it's, none of that information is gonna impact it. I wanna stay with the uplighting just because of the maintenance. The maintenance, and then when we're not maintaining it, because we're only doing it every semi-annually, that it looks subpar.
I think that's my concern is not, okay, they're gonna say, oh, the last 10 years, great. Well, then that means that the minute the first bulb burns out, you go up and replace all of them. Because you're not gonna do this like
One-
two, because right, as soon as 10 years down the road, one goes out. How much is it? 6 months? So the next one goes out, 2 months, 30 days, like, you're just gonna go do a wholesale replacement. It's the only thing that makes sense.
I mean, I like the concept as people have come, that look of the lights on the arch, I like that. The idea of maybe revisiting color, I mean, I really don't want to, but you could have. But I just. 60 feet up in the air on the
If
arch.
it's $4 million, let's talk about it. If it's 800,000, I'd probably leave it as is.
I am concerned about the maintenance on this, so it's something I
I
have.
think that's important. Craig's concerned about the maintenance. That's important to me.
So to be really clear on this, so folks, is that if we decide to stay with the uplights, that does take off the option of basically doing the full guardrail.
Part of the railing
Yeah.
savings would go away.
Yeah.
That's good. I
Or
don't know.
opportunity for railing savings.
You can still do the
You
galvanized.
could still do
structures.
Okay, so let's talk about the lighting on the poles.
Do we have a rough dollar on this one?
Same, it's, both of them are no more than a
Not
million each.
believable, it's not a believable number right now.
Yeah,
So you're saying $1 million or less savings for each of the lighting options?
that would be the most it could possibly be based on the bid items. it's
Looking at the pole, show me a pole.
On the whole, too.
That one that's sort of in the bun. And so those are placed how far apart from each other?
About 32 feet on center, so there's
And it's
three,
just this straight pole sticking up in the air.
just a cylinder that's,
Like I hate,
No part of this.
I hate where we took the sails down and Robin Hood and all these poles are just sticking straight in the air.
so,
4 inches diameter instead of 15.
yeah, there's no picture.
Poles.
I think we took out the picture of the product, but it's this pole, there's basically 3 on each bridge span. And then 5 on the main span, so they're spread pretty, it's the same pole that we have at the Belvedere's already. So that would just repeat across the bridge.
So if there's not a desire to do any changes with the lighting or to galvanize steel, then what we're looking at is roughly a $1.2 million difference. With the changes that we're willing to do.
Correct, but we should just run the galvanized. I don't think we ever got to any kind of consensus on that.
On the galvanized versus stainless steel are both painted?
No,
Not either.
neither are painted.
In the current, I mean, not to say they couldn't, the government.
Yeah,
The arches are. Never painted.
So what are people's thoughts on the galvanized versus steel?
Stainless steel is nicer to touch, like for a handrail, it's nicer to.
It's
You know,
smooth instead of that
Yeah.
raw galvanized material.
Yeah, and so if we're gonna do galvanized, then, but so there's no world where we would do stainless steel handrails and galvanized mesh.
That's the, so the cost value. There we go. Sorry, on this option, so across the whole project, 600 to 800,000,
Oh,
that handrail would stay stainless.
The frame, yeah, the frame.
If it has the lighting in
The
it,
structural framing would basically go to galvanized versus stainless.
and the mesh is still stainless.
That's stainless.
this one I could live with. So the part you touch would be stainless.
And the mesh would be
And the mesh.
And what's galvanized?
The red
The
parts.
frame.
The posts,
And the lighting could still be.
That's 800.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so
And this is how much of,
600 to 800.
that's that for sure.
So that gives us about $2 million in savings total, Renee, right?
Yeah. right.
Based on the numbers we got today.
Yeah.
We're not holding you to it, we're just.
So what does everybody think about that?
this is the only railing change I like.
Me too.
And how weird would that look? Galvanized and stainless in one?
You have, you have.
Yeah,
We have, I mean, it would be, so, this has a mix, but then that top rail would be stainless instead of the galvanized.
That's all
That's the
galvanized right there, right?
Yeah, that's all gal.
This is all galvanized on the right.
Yeah, and the mesh would be the stainless.
We have kind of a separation detail at that joint, so it wouldn't be as, touching as this is.
So would we have two, I know one's not a railing, do we have two? We have a railing and then we have that other crossbar.
The other cross piece is just a rod. So if we look at this.
Would that be
I think-
galvanized or stainless?
I mean, it could be here. So in the 600 to 800, that rod
Yeah,
is galvanized, but we could keep that stainless and just take the posts.
Which can be some of that cost savings.
Yeah,
We're-
that'd probably go less.
Too many
so
conversations.
I'm,
So. I like that. I like it.
Yeah.
If this is all stainless, I like this being stainless too,
And just take the
and
posts.
just having the posts only galvanized. That's me.
There's less savings there, but definitely still savings. That's the most complicated part of stainless we have.
Can you
right
say that again, Doug? Then?
So if we were going with the mixed option where the posts become galvanized and the railing is, and the mesh are stainless, there's a little, if you look at the top of the mesh, there's a little bar
Yeah.
that holds the mesh. That could either be galvanized or stainless, and I was just saying I'd like it to still be stainless because it's attached to the mesh and it would look weird if it was and to me, it would look a little weird if that was galvanized and all the stuff attached to it was stainless.
Yeah,
So that matches the rods on the trusses, which are also currently stainless.
Right.
Okay.
So then that would,
So it ties it in a little better, right?
Is there any corrosion issues having dissimilar metals touching?
not in that pattern.
Okay.
But that's why the posts are complicated right now, because we have a stainless steel post connecting to a painted steel bridge.
Right.
And that interface is really complicated right now. So we would still simplify that quite a bit
Okay.
if the post goes galvanized.
So the galvanization of that post helps solve that problem.
Yes.
Yes.
That's what I would.
Half of the room.
So, council,
I heard Dan saying something, something.
Dan, what do you have a thought?
Again, the cost is a little bit more than we were all expecting it to be, but like, as a person who owns a home, when I'm doing repairs or upgrades. I don't like when I save a couple dollars to then in 20 years be like, or even every year since that, be like, why didn't we spend? In this case, it's millions, but not $2. But percentage wise of what the total cost is, it's not a ton. To still get the aesthetics that we want. And so I think changing the post to the galvanized, but keeping the mesh that we talked about to keep that look that we're wanting. And then for the railings, I think that's what I would want to go with.
I agree with that.
I'm a little bit more aggressive even than Dan is, I like the original vision of them being all stainless steel and to save $200,000. For the partner.
Probably more like 500.
Yeah, 500 to 8 or whatever.
For those posts,
Well, the 16 is gonna come down if we
That's the
move that
posts
top.
and the rods. We, obviously have to have the conversation, but the posts are probably more of that than the rods are.
Okay, so even so, because like in my mind, yeah, the 29 million is way more, 28.5 is.
Not
That
much
much
bigger.
better, right? And so I've got the same problem both ways. I'd rather have the designers who design the beautiful.
the complete thought.
Yeah.
Thoughts, the bastardizing it a little bit.
Yeah, and I think some of the things that we took out are able to be done without destroying it, but I don't know that it solves the other problem of, oh, we gotta have a bridge at any cost, and so for me, from a design perspective, I'm just saying, I don't know that I totally am on board with the partial replacement, because it just doesn't save us enough where it makes a difference.
Well, go ahead. I just going around. So Renee, what are your thoughts?
I still don't think it gets us to where we need to be money wise. I still think we have quite a bit of a shortfall.
Right, but if we do this, what are your thoughts? Is this something, I understand. but
Well,
I'm
why,
trying to
what,
get-
to use your term, why bastardize it, if it's going to take away what we wanted at the beginning, and we're still not going to be able to have the funds to do it.
So do you wanna cut more, or do you wanna not, I'm trying.
I-
Cut more, cut nothing?
So if I-
Oh.
No, I would probably, if we were truly trying to get down, I would cut more, but I don't see us getting to where we need to be.
Well, I think that kind of goes back to my original question, when you were talking about the two projects. Right, like,
Yeah,
Well, so just because we need to give them direction.
I understand.
So,
Mayor, what's your thoughts?
well, so you,
I mean, I just wanted to add on, like, honestly. I would rather just cut the stairs and that one railing and A and B. And leave everything stainless. Cause again, I don't think saving another 500,000 really makes that much big a difference in the grand scheme of things.
that's my thought too.
Yeah.
Yeah, is there consensus on that?
Yeah.
Okay. So, because I know, Dan, you want to go back to talk about the overall pricing, the first slide, but before we do that.
Yeah, that doesn't need to be with them.
Yeah, but so timing wise. When do we have to, just hypothetically, assuming we move forward, when do we have to have a meeting to approve something.
So I think we got good direction tonight. That's what I was hoping.
You guys feel comfortable with the direction you?
I think maybe just talk through it.
Yeah, let's make sure.
So to be clear, so no changes to lighting. No changes to the bulk of the railings.
This railing.
We are gonna delete the stair completely, leave a provision that could come back in the future.
I'm sure that we could add it later.
Yeah. Delete the railings over here completely, don't add anything back.
Which also could be added at a later date if it becomes a problem.
Absolutely, yep. We're gonna delete this little bottom tier of retaining wall.
Remember that, so
Yeah.
that's interesting.
It came in.
That was the
It came in a lot more expensive than we anticipated it. would.
Yeah, so it's just a little detail.
Have we talked to Greenworks about that? Because landscape architect might not know about it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
And then we're gonna make a slight adjustment to the path, keeping it as far as possible from the high school path. But eliminating all of the railings at that location.
And have a conversation with the high school.
I can't imagine there's between 100 feet and 130 feet, like what the hell the difference, right?
It sounds like there was issues because we wanted to connect to their trail as opposed to just a different point on the road. Is that correct?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
There are issues we wanted to connect to their path as opposed to just coming down on the road. Okay.
Yeah, it should be fine.
They were worried about people cutting straight across.
Yeah, the sidewalk gets higher as you
You
go.
could have some plantings.
So that kind of helps.
Here's what-
And so something, yeah. Okay. Yeah, so I think the total is, 250 to 320 there. Plus 400 to 500, plus 700 to 800. Whatever that is.
1.5 to 1.8, something.
Those are all pretty quick changes.
So that's the feedback direction there. If the council was to support the project, what's the timing as the mayor asked?
So if the council supports the project, then we go back to work. Your next council meeting is on 12/5. We'd have to still negotiate with the contractor. To try to make that meeting, we'd have to have our stuff turned in next Friday to Sylvia. I don't know if that's gonna happen, so there could be a special call early December to approve the contract.
And what's the date, assuming that the vendor doesn't want to extend, that we have to worry about again?
So 30 days would be at the end of the month, because I think it's 10/31 was the due date, so.
Thursday.
But if we could get something and agree with them as we work through this, and I think we can from our original conversations, because I'm thinking they're wanting the job too, right? That's when we'd have to make that agreement, right, before that date, so.
Nothing tonight changes the substantial nature of the bridge that I've done.
So we can potentially shoot for the next meeting, or if we can't get it in, we'll have to do a
We'll
special.
have to do it,
Okay,
where you guys don't have a second meeting in December, we'd have to probably maybe the following week after that or something, have a meeting before we get to the
yeah,
holidays.
for those, we can work around everybody's schedules.
So you guys feel comfortable with the direction you have?
Yeah, and so, yeah, I mean, next week's gonna be busy.
I wanna
Pick the easy.
I know.
You did, actually, yeah, you did.
I want to
Did
thank
actually.
Kurt and his team. I want to thank Craig. I want to thank David. There's been a lot of behind the scenes. You guys have been amazing. Over the last few weeks, there's just a lot of moving parts, a lot of conversations. So just want to give a shout out to all of them for getting this ready to go.
We were all shocked, right?
Yeah, that was not a fun bid opening.
Okay.
Enjoyed that.
Excellent. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Hey, Craig, we'll talk tomorrow. Yeah, we'll be on the phone again, I'm pretty sure.
All right, our work session continues. Dan asked that we come back to the slide and we probably needed to anyway, so Dan.
Yeah, my understanding of how the URA funds work is that you designate the area, freeze the taxes, you ideally allow funds to build up and then borrow against that. In our case, we have chosen essentially with the second year of you borrow everything against it before you have it and take out an additional loan on top of that and not still be able to cover even the things that we have already lined up in construction.
When you say everything, the overall borrowing capacity is 160 million.
Yeah, the overall TIF or the maximum indebtedness is $166 million. It's not ideal. You go out for a loan at the very beginning because it does limit, you are paying now interest payments. Yeah.
By the end, we'll have all this, but right now we have minimal, enough just to pay the debt service, it sounds like, not much more than that.
Well, there's, are you talking just a TIF collections or this pot, there's two different funds in the URA. There's the operation fund. This is the capital project fund.
Okay.
Capital project fund. Almost 16.5 million is sitting in that fund. Now, the operation fund. Our operation cost is about 1.2 to 1.3 million is what we had budgeted, and TIF revenue is coming in about 1.1 million. I needed it to come in. At least about 1.1 to 1.2 million, but we still have some fund balance in there because the way these loans are structured, we have what you call capitalized interest. Normally, when you take out debt, it can only be used on capital projects, but we structured this loan so we had capitalized interest that could pay those debt service payments for the first few years until things got up and going. Same for both loans, broadband and for the, like I would want to say, the non-broadband projects, just to allow them to generate that revenue. So in terms of, I don't know, does that answer your question? Because the TIF revenue is slowly building up in terms of as things come online. For example, those 3 buildings over in the TEA, they've all come online this tax year. The new construction out there is not scheduled to be finished by 12/31. So they won't be coming on the tax roll the following fiscal year. It'll take another fiscal year for those to come online for us to see that benefit from those buildings.
But we weren't anticipating borrowing up to 13 million in addition to those to be paying off as well, correct? With our estimates.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get creative with the structure of a 10-year loan back to the water fund, the repayment.
Sounds like maybe even less than that to get to 2030, maybe 6 years to pay it back.
And Keith is still Craig is still analyzing. How much could actually borrow with all the projects that are still in the works that he needs to have those funds.
I'm concerned about the city council 10 years from now, who's still using this URA that's set aside. That doesn't have any money because we've spent it all now for these 2 projects.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit of a misconception. It's just gonna delay other projects from starting. When you look at that total maximum indebtedness, 166 million in tax collections over 30 years, thus to pay for $166 million worth of projects.
And how much?
And we're gonna use 30.
So far?
So far, we've taken out 25 between the 2 debt issuances, about 26.
25, so 25 of 160.
In all likelihood, if we're talking employment area, within 10 years will all be built out. And other parts of the district should have development as well. You will have tax increment financing available in 5 years and in 10 years to do more projects. And in 5 years, it might be to repay some of this for these projects.
And there's an option too with the water fund, if interest rates go down again, and it makes sense, you can always go out and bond, pay back water funds at that point.
And we'd analyze the TIF collections at that time. Okay, if we did go out on the market, what's the maximum amount that we could potentially take out given tax collections at that, or TIF collections at that time. To see if the operational fund can afford that repayment.
It feels like to me, I mean, thinking about the other projects that were in here, I mean, isn't the public works facility, isn't that one of the projects that we had talked about? So
Yeah.
that to me feels like the one that starts becoming delayed.
Potentially.
If we don't hit the goals that we're thinking we're gonna hit and the revenues that we can hit, like then. I think we can probably figure out a way to make Ice Age work, right? We have both our various mechanisms. It's the project after Ice Age that now we're sitting there going, we've tapped out all these resources. If it's public works facility or project number 4 or project number 5, that
It
we're delaying.
definitely delays things.
Yeah.
You know, each of these projects have different paths for additional funding. As
So
well.
there's not a bottomless pot of money. We're
There's
still
not a
making
bottomless pot
trades.
of money, but we're definitely making trade-offs, but.
Yeah.
Um,
And the challenge that we know is continuing is when we, on the public works facility is, hey, we gotta get it cleaned up first. And then, or at least 5 years.
I mean, to me, you gotta build Ice Age Drive. We're gonna have to build a public works facility at some point, like the bridge. People don't wanna hear this, the bridge is optional. It's optional forever. It's certainly optional for now. Now, if we say we're not gonna build a bridge, we're gonna come back 8 years from now and build a bridge, it's gonna be a lot more expensive than it is now. We probably have to start all over again. We're gonna lose some of the money we have, right? There's not suggesting we do that, but
Yeah,
we don't have to build a bridge.
but Doug,
We do have to build Ice Age Drive. We do have to build a public works.
right, so I mean, because Doug, that's the comment I've said a couple of times is. It was public support for a pedestrian bridge, however, I don't know that it was public support at all costs.
It wasn't,
Right.
but I want to add some of that. It wasn't just public support. It was a grassroots effort. I have literally hundreds of letters that were written by citizens to Salem as we were advocating for that $4 million for this bridge. So it wasn't just, we heard some public comment that they want this bridge. It was a significant grassroots effort of this community.
And as part of, and when we, if the council does do Sherwood West, and if, that keeps moving and Metro supports the plan, when we deal with the financing of Sherwood West, there's opportunities for Sherwood West development to cover parts of that bridge cost.
Right.
As well as other infrastructure needs. There's tremendous tools still in front of us that we have not explored.
But it seems like we gotta spend the money up front and to maybe.
Oh, right, in theory, Metro could say no, we could, or the city council could not ask for Sherwood West, or Metro could say no. No development ever occurs in Sherwood West, I think, the intent of the pedestrian bridge is a long-term vision for uniting both sides as Sherwood West grows. And so we don't have this freeway divide.
It's a generational project.
It's a
Right, but
generational
but
project.
to accomplish that goal, we've got to agree that that we are a pedestrian. We have a pedestrian zone on one side or the other, right? Because right now, the users of that are, walkers and joggers and the students, right? And
But for the next 3 or 4 years, for sure.
right, and so, and frankly, if we said, okay, well, Sherwood West is going to have a pedestrian friendly zone where it's actually more convenient to walk to it than it is to drive to it, then I would buy the idea that we're gonna have people walk from Woodhaven to some area in Sherwood West, right? Because it's easier, it's better to do because we built that. Otherwise, it's about student safety, right? And we say, okay, well, this is gonna be about student safety. Well, are there cheaper ways to, the example I keep using is you could pay round the clock crossing guards for 100 years for less money than $26 million, right? And so if we're just saying, hey, safety, because if it doesn't do the connection part, then it's safety. And are there other ways to do the safety that are more economical than 30 million.
Except it was all about
It's really
safety and
narrative.
connecting.
It was never just
It
about
was-
safety.
Right, it's connecting west and east.
But it's the,
But do we want to pressure test that a little bit as to whether or not it actually does connect the high school to the YMCA? Right, I mean, it physically connects it, but is that,
That was a conversation that needed to take place 3 years ago,
well, no, but I agree, I wasn't on the council 3 years ago.
or
but
2
I-
years ago, or however many
Yeah.
meetings we've had about this.
Well, but my answer has become different, seeing that, you know, initially when I got on, it was 9, then it was 18, and now to go to 29. It feels like we'd be not doing our due diligence to say, is that the right thing still? And by the way, I'm really not saying no, I'm kind of like,
just talking out loud.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to say, is it still the right thing? But would we do it if the price came in at 100 million? I'd say, well, no, I definitely can't afford that. And so the dollar amount is somewhere between 20 and 100 million for me. And I'm just,
It's a
And I-
conversation that we owe the people of the city.
and I,
Who pay the taxes.
yeah.
and I am somewhat agreeing, because I waffled with this as well, being the fiscal conservative one, that I am, but I'm knowing in 3 years, that's probably gonna be 50 million to build. So do we just never build a bridge
And
then?
if we take a pause and delay this 6 months, we've got probably close to $1 million additional costs just for 6 months, so.
Or, I mean, there's the other
At
option,
least.
which is, I'm not advocating this option, but the reality is. We're building a Taj Mahal bridge, we don't have to. We can build a really cheap, a much cheaper bridge. If we just want the function, we can build the function without the form.
And
I'm not wanting that, I'm just saying that that's a real option.
I firmly, in my 25 years of doing stuff in the city and different urban renewal projects, I think it's an important project. Yes, you grit your teeth and da-da-da-da. But for me, I move forward with the plan that we kind of adjusted, and then we keep working the problem to solve for the other projects. I think they're all doable.
From a, just like from a big picture point of view, we are in an incredibly lucky position right
Yeah.
now. Most cities
We thought of any of these
dream about doing this. The fact that we're having a conversation about which one first and we even have the options of maybe doing the second one and accelerate it by going after other funds is an incredibly wonderful position to be in. And it's just to make sure anyone listening understands this, we're not talking about raising taxes in Sherwood. This is all about tax increment financing, which does not raise anyone's taxes. I just want to make sure people understand that. But the reality is, big picture wise, if the cost, this might be, I think it will connect, you know, when I imagine Sherwood West all built out in 23 years, that's why I think about this as a generational project. It does provide a connection. We need another one at Meineke in Cedar Creek. We need, we're also gonna have to down the road be thinking about what happens at Chapman as things build out down that direction. So I think if we don't take this opportunity now, in the position we're in, with $4 million we have from the state and our just very healthy URA, we won't get it back. We won't get it back.
I firmly,
That's next.
So here's what I think, nuts the bolts here. If I could go back in time 3 years, knowing what I know now, I would say, let's build Ice Age Drive, let's build Public Works, then let's build a bridge. But I don't have I don't have a time machine. And I didn't have the benefit of foreknowledge 3 years ago. And so the other thing you have to consider is, we walk away from this, we're walking away from about $6.5 million. We've got $2.5 million of sunk costs. We got the $4 million that will disappear.
Property we bought.
Yeah, I mean, at least $6.5 million, right? And so. And all the time that's been invested in this, right, and everything. So to me, again, if I could go back in time, I would probably make a different sequence of these things, but. Where we're at now and on this precipice of go, no go decision with everything lined up, ready to go. I don't wanna walk away from the $6.5 million, and I think we we move forward with this project, and I think we'll figure out Ice Age, and I think we'll figure out Public Works Facility. We've been really diligent with our budgeting, and credit to everyone in the city and everyone in this room, so that we have these options available to us, and we have alternative funds available to us, and David and Craig and everyone have done a great job of making that happen, so I'm just gonna trust that we'll figure out those problems like we always do, and I'm a yes.
So to add to that, our track record too of getting, I call it other people's money, meaning people's money, is we've been doing good, and I think we can continue with that, yeah. David, did you?
Well, Doug kind of clarified it, but Taylor, I just want to clarify a point, and this is by no means is swaying any, it's your guys' decision on what you want to do.
Just providing data.
29 million is estimated cost remaining. We've already spent 2.6 million today. I just wanted to clarify, because I think you said building a bridge for $29 million. I mean,
It's really 31.
It's really 31.
yes, I just want to clarify what my slides are
Yeah.
saying here.
Yeah, no, and I get that. And by the way,
Okay.
the difference between 29 and 31 is also, I mean, I'm talking about the difference between 18 and 29 is the big one that so, the 18 and 31, but, and I'm sensitive to that too. We've already spent money on, and I'm not getting, let's just forget the state money. I mean, obviously it's a factor. I understand that we have already spent the 2.4 and that we put a tremendous amount of time and effort into it. But it also, I don't kind of buy the, well, don't throw good money after bad, right? We're at a decision point still where we have to decide, is it still worth it, and have this discussion. Again, I'm kind of, I told my wife when I came out to this meeting, I'm not sure yet where I am on it, because it is so much more. And so when I think of the value that I could add, even Ice Age Drive, if I said, well, Ice Age Drive, I could say yes to more readily, because it'll improve the land there, it'll allow for those funds to keep growing, it'll allow all that, right? And so then that gives me some comfort, versus I've heard him say, David say, yes, we could go out for more money. I haven't heard, yeah, it'll be easy. I haven't heard, yeah, we'll be, I hear, no, I know, but it is easier if we've got, money in the bank or properties or, other stuff like that, right? It's to your point, rates could go down. But for me counting on that and saying, okay, well, in order to do the public works building, we gotta hope that rates go down.
Thanks, Jason.
That feels like,
Any input, Jason? Just kidding.
You guys have very interesting meetings.
Boy, interesting. That could
Yeah.
be taken a number of ways.
So just real quick, because I want to, on that, and Craig, correct me if I'm wrong, the contract we're looking at is a fixed cost contract, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we have 2 million of contingency in there. That we may not, and I know it's that's another potential we don't spend or don't spend part of the money.
It would only be if we had to change something in the contract on.
So if we don't do.
I've never had work that something comes up.
Change orders always happen.
I know.
Construction.
They're gonna have some changes. I mean,
With the size.
we had change orders on the water project. Underground, you don't know what's under there exactly until you dig into
I
it.
just want to make sure.
Yeah.
that was clear.
No, and by the way, I'm assuming that money's spent, all of it, right? Because it would be a nice surprise if we get some of it back, but
That's how you should look at
yeah.
it.
So,
But we fight to keep as much.
oh yeah, no, I have no doubts that the city is very good at keeping an eye on that, but anyway, that's
Well,
right.
what are we trying to accomplish tonight? We need direction. I mean, they're gonna,
If you, so you can voice your opinion if you definitely have an opinion. If you don't have an opinion yet, if you're still wanting to digest things, then
Are we
that's
gonna have a
certainly
vote?
right.
Not tonight.
We're not.
Later, I know we're not tonight.
Well, that's why we're having a search session, because we'll have.
If there's more
contract.
information, someone
Most we
wants.
can do in here, I'm using the right word, is consensus.
Right.
So staff has direction to put something in front of us to vote on.
I think what people are looking at is
Yeah.
there's going to be a vote down the road,
Yes,
the final vote on the bridge or no.
we have to vote to approve.
The contract.
Perfect. And that's that timing that I was talking about earlier. So we would have a special meeting or a meeting in, or just add a second meeting, next month to get that done. Correct? Yeah.
Could I ask one more question, probably to you, Craig? What are the costs that would be involved if we said, hey, we do want to, now that we know the costs,
for real, we would like to go out to public. That would mean going out for RFP again and all of the other stuff. Is that another $50,000? Is that, just to do that, not assuming the construction costs, they come, that's
You mean just for going out to bid with an invitation to bid for the.
yeah, if we say, you know what, we wanna look at this for 2 months and do a community
So
feedback
you're-
session and everything else, and then go out for RFP, because, you know, again, to see if there's still public support.
There would be some costs. I don't know if it's $50,000, but there'd be some costs, but you'd be looking at probably you'd have to run the ad again for probably
Why?
6 weeks. You're probably looking at 3 months to get through the process.
All right, do a whole new RFP, start the RFP over.
If you went back out to bid, but you're not if you were like making a bunch of changes, I would say that might be the way if you couldn't get it with the contractor down. But you're delaying it by 2.5, 3 months to do an
Yeah,
invitation.
Just
to bid again.
inflation, $169,000.
And on this project, you're gonna get the same contractors that's gonna bid on it again.
Right.
So
Yeah, part of it is I guess part of my wishy-washiness on it is, you know, just wondering if there is still public support. I know you got the 600 letters, but if there is still public support, again, at any cost, right?
So,
That is the question.
for what it's worth, I brought up, challenges with the bridge and the bids at Cultural Arts last night. And I said, because I didn't initiate it, but other people did, and I go, you know, we have a problem. You know, it's much higher than we expected. You know, ideally, if we were able to go out to bid, you know, a couple of years ago, maybe it's half, but it's, you know,
Yeah.
doubled. And to a person around the table, they said, you need to do it.
Okay, that's good feedback.
Technically, we still have time. We could still ask the community, because we're not voting on this tonight. We've got a couple, next council meeting, whatever. So we have what, 2 weeks? Couple questions maybe, and make a comment. Possibly. I don't even know. My brain's a little jumbled, but to your point about that connection issue, is it just a safety issue or is it a connectivity issue? Can we in the master plan make it a connectivity issue? I mean, can something be designated? I don't know.
Yeah, it's
No,
be part of, you can make it part, I apologize, if you don't want to answer, someone else can answer.
I don't care. I mean, whoever answers, it can.
But it's part of what the Sherwood West plan. You have a list of infrastructure that is required, and if it's already been built, then you design the financing mechanisms.
That's what she was asking.
To help pay for it. But then you also design your infrastructure to ensure that roads, trails lead to it. If it's not already been designated in the plan.
Just to make sure that if we do it, that in terms of making it connectivity that's part of all the planning that occurs after that.
I don't really know what my question is. I think I'm hearing Taylor ask the question, and I have the same question, are we building the bridge to build it for safety, or are we building it to help bring connection, or are we building it for both? And I think the answer is probably both. Is there any way though that we can ensure that it's the both? Is there something that can be designated in the master plan? And I'm not familiar enough with master planning to be able to answer the question, but that it ensures it's.
I think what you're getting at is like if on the other end of the bridge, which would be across from the high school, across Haiti, would probably be the closest area to the ending of the bridge. That you had some zoning rules or whatever that were.
Maybe.
Like, that's, I know where you're
Unlock
going. I think getting it into the part of this master plan is really important. I think when we originally were selling this to Salem, and it was over a 2-cycle process, because we got bid in $2 million chunks. We actually had some maps we built that showed our trail plan and how it integrated into this bridge and how it would connect things. I'm assuming we could make that. Because the master plan tells us how to plan. So
Right.
That's in the concept plan,
Yeah.
certainly in the comprehensive plan, that would be expanded on, but like, there's no way that when we comp plan this. we're not gonna have whatever trail systems are on Sherwood West tie into this, like, that would, of course we will, that's like.
Right.
Planning 101 for the people over here, like.
So where I was going with it, that helps answer that question of connectivity and safety, right?
So you would tie it into your Parks Master Plan,
Right.
because it'd be no different than if you guys, since we're taking the stairs out, right? That's a connectivity. That's gonna have to go in the Parks Master Plan and the CIP to even be able to go after money. And then when the TSP gets updated this next year, you would actually want to make sure stuff was included there for connectivity of trails and stuff like that.
And in the current version of the Sherwood West plan, you know, right over there on the other side of where the bridge will terminate is high density and mixed use areas. So it's also, you know, and with the new parking rules over, you know, residential, you know, to try to reduce people having cars. So it's be more and more.
To the art center.
So people that live over there could use it to get to the Y, to get to.
Most people won't.
Rainbow Market.
Most people won't be able to have it.
All right, so part of my question is answered there then. My other question goes back to what the data that you still need to pull on the water fund and use of those funds. And specifically now hearing the 2030 build out
So
or whatever.
that is kind of the plan right now is 2030, but that is really gonna be based off of consumption. Because like the treatment plant originally was gonna be like 2018 and we are 2022 when we started it. So the plan is 2030-ish, right around there, but it might be.
But that was the plan from quite a while ago. And we're also experiencing a lower average consumption now. People are watering their yards less, and so some of those assumptions, and as we get to more density, the water use per household is going down because there's less arable land. So that impacts, you know, the growth need.
Okay, that's helpful. And then our number one goal is economic development. So critical to that success is ISH Drive.
Yeah.
Right? So I heard the figure 6.5 million when we include the 4 million to the earmark from the feds. So what would be the loss at the state, sorry, thank you for that clarification. So what would be the loss if we didn't do something with ISH Drive with what we've already done?
So what could be, and we're looking, Jason's actually looking into it, but what could happen is we have the money coming in from the feds. And when that, I wasn't part of that application that was submitted, but usually when you apply for federal money like that, there's a point A to a point B.
Right.
So if that was put into the process for the $3 million, you won't be able to fund that. There's potentially you lose the $3 million.
Okay.
But I don't have that answer from Jason saying that.
Certain that's an all or nothing deal. Yeah. We were able to eliminate portions of the Cedar Creek Trail project that was already existing right of way. And there was a path on Villa Road and they let us pull that out, but they won't let us do that for ISH Drive. It's A to B.
But what's
all
that
the way. I believe we have 15 years to do it.
Okay, so we have a little more time.
Well, we have only a few years to spend the federal money,
Okay,
so.
Once we sign the IGA, that's the part that
But we have 15 years to finish the project. So the risk is if we don't get it done in 15 years, we have to pay back the 3 million with interest.
I don't know, but I know that the timeline for spending the federal money is not 15 years.
No, it's not.
It's less than.
No, it's usually.
once we turn it on.
okay.
And for answers to.
That was just Cedar Creek Trail that took that. Sorry.
The only other thing I want.
Years and $12 million.
The only other thing I want to put out there is that we have all these projects that are on the docket, and if we're putting the money towards the bridge, then it should take the load off some of the staff, right? And then.
It's still infrastructure projects, though. I wish it worked that way.
Trying to find the silver liner here, Craig.
So we have a few answers. I think staff we've given the consultants enough information to come back with findings for us to consider as a counselor. I'm just curious where people are at right now, consensus wise.
I'm a go.
I'm gonna go. Steve,
I'm a yes. Kim?
I'm a yes.
Dan?
It sounds like everybody is saying that the funding can happen for this, and the only downside is that projects would be delayed. This has nothing to do with the city's budget. This is a separate.
Right.
Pool of money, and so if that's the case, that we're just delaying things, I think that. That this is what the citizens want, and so I would be.
Okay.
I still think we need to ask some of the questions to the citizens. I'm still kind of on the edge. I'm closer now to agreeing, but
Okay.
I still have to think about it.
Yeah, I'm almost the same. I came in 50-50. I've had some things assuaged, so I'm probably 65-35 for it, but I gotta do my own.
Okay.
I may just go ask people and just see.
Fair enough.
Can I point out that,
Well,
oh,
Yeah, we do.
Yeah,
no, I don't want to know what you think.
I kind of agree with what Dan and Ken, which I'd say, I think it's a generational project. and it's gonna be done through it, and we won't get it, you just don't get the opportunities like this.
Yeah, that carries weight.
And I think it's just an integral thing with Sherwood West.
Yeah, and when we got support for this bridge early on, we weren't throwing numbers out, even at it was, I think it was 9 million, but whatever it was, that didn't include contingencies and land acquisitions, it was probably a much.
I don't even think we asked the public about a price. We just-
No, it was,
say we're
do we
supporting
want this? And
Can I also point out that if not this project, if we do another project, Ice Age and some other project, any project we do at this point delays projects down here. So if we did Public Works first, something else is gonna get delayed. If we do this first, something else is gonna get, I mean, it's
Yeah, I
just the price of things. Public Works, I don't even know what the estimate for that's gonna be
Right, but-
right now.
But the difference is that Ice Age Drive, if you do it, it brings back, like, I can almost touch the revenue that comes back when I sell my land that usually has there, right? But to your point, like, I can see Sherwood West, if we say, hey, you know what? We're trying to tie the pedestrians of Sherwood together. And so we're gonna create a pedestrian friendly zone, especially around the high school, right? Where there's gonna be a lot of children,
That was
kids
the
walking
point.
and different stuff. And so if we say, hey, just south of that, we want that to be a pedestrian friendly and this and that, and if we drive to that, I feel much better about it than it's used twice a day by students going to and from the school and once on Fridays for football games.
Thankfully, we never advertised it like that.
And maybe that's the terminology I was looking for, pedestrian friendly zone in the master plan or whatever the plan's called.
Yeah,
Yeah, we could definitely do that, because I agree 100% with that. All the planning we need to make that as usable and
Yeah.
easy
Right,
as
that-
possible.
that makes it much more of a, okay, this is a generational, this is a foundation of that whole area of Sherwood West. Because we're designing it different than that, because otherwise I fall back on the people in Sherwood like to drive their cars, right? And so it's like.
But the rules are changing.
Well, I know, but so we embrace that and we say, okay, great, we're gonna have a European style hospitality zone in just south of there or whatever.
If Salem gets their way, we won't have any parking. Sure, I know I'm being.
Yeah, no, I know,
but there's a big push to not have all the regions.
Yeah, no, I get it.
So, all right, okay, well,
I just have one more thing.
Yeah.
I did speak with Representative Neron recently about this when we got the bids back, just trying to figure out. And her biggest thing was that a lot of effort went into getting these state funds. And we are a more well-off city that is requesting these funds and
Very
that if we
difficult.
don't use them, like that can have significant impact for future requests as well. So consider that.
We have about 3 to 4 million requests in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that.
Sewer projects
That's-
downtown
That's weighing on,
stuff.
that's definitely, yeah.
We still have one more meeting too.
Yeah, okay, well, that's a lot of good conversation. I am going to
Points, Renee.
adjourn this meeting at this time. Thank you, everyone, and we're gonna be going into executive session. Take a bathroom break. 5-minute break. Yeah. Get out of here. Yeah. I put down 3 of these things since we started this. I know. That was.
Fill 'em back up.
It started. How many jobs? Completely. We had, so.